One of these gods just ain't like the others. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. I have for you a quiz. This is going to be really easy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say 5 different card names, and I want you to pick out the one that stands out to you just from the card name. All right? So here we go. God Eternal Oketra. God Eternal Kefnet, God Eternal Bontu, God Eternal Ronus, Ilharg the Raise Boar. Any one of those stand out for you? Are you still having a hard time? Let me make it easy for you. Let's just move down to creature type, okay? See if you can pick out the one that doesn't fit. Zombie God, or Zombie God, or Zombie God, or Zombie God, or Boar God. Which stands out for you? Yeah, it's pretty obvious. We are here to talk about the odd god out. The one god that kind of doesn't make sense why it's on Ravnica, and also kind of makes sense while it's there. But if you are brand new to the game and you don't know the flavor of any of it, you're going to be left going, wait, what's going on? Let's talk about all 5 gods to get it out of the way first of all, because they are interesting cards, and if you haven't seen them, they're worth taking a look at. So we'll start out with those. You've got God Eternal Oketra, 2 white, 3 colorless for a 3/6 double striking zombie god. Whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 4/4 black zombie warrior creature token with vigilance. So that's the creation of Eternals. And when God Eternal Oketra dies or is put into exile from the battlefield, you may put it into its owner's library 3rd from the top. Now, pay attention to this ability, because this is probably going to crop up on more than one card. It might just be what ties them together. What's interesting to note about it is it's not just when it dies, it's also when it gets exiled that you get to do this effect where it is put 3rd from the top. And this represents its godhood and the fact that it's really pretty much impossible to make that god disperse, and they will keep coming back again and again. So overall, God Eternal Oketra's not too shabby a creature. 3/6 double strike that makes 4/4s whenever you cast a creature is pretty gross. Then we've got God Eternal Kefnet. That's 2 blue, 2 colorless. This one is a flyer 4/5. You may reveal the first card you draw each turn as you draw it. Whenever you reveal an instant or sorcery card this way, copy it. Copy that card, and you may cast the copy. The copy costs 2 less to cast. So you get to play an extra copy of a spell at a discounted price. Not too shabby considering Kefnet's the god of knowledge and wisdom, so that overall works. And then the final ability is what we've already seen. When this creature dies or is put in exile from the battlefield, you can put it into your owner's library 3rd from the top there. Moving on, God Eternal Bontu. 2 black, 3 colors for a 5/6 with menace. When God Eternal Bontu enters the battlefield, sacrifice any number of other permanents, then draw that many cards. Not too shabby, and it does reflect Bontu's nature. In fact, I did an entire video on the flavor and lore behind Bontu, so if you want to check that out, at the end of the video there will be a lore playlist and the Bontu video, Bontu, not Bonto, Bontu. You want to watch a video where I talk about a character I can't even pronounce the name? Sounds good, huh? So, anyways, that'll be at the end of the video. Next up, we've got God Eternal Ronus. 2 green, 3 colorless. This is Death Touch, 5/5. Honestly, this is the most exciting god for me. I cannot wait to put this in my green deck because of the ability I am about to read. When God Eternal Ronus enters the battlefield, double the power of each other creature you control until end of turn. Those creatures gain vigilance until end of turn. Oh, yes! Please, Papa, give me more. That's so amazing, honestly. I can't wait. I cannot wait to get my hands on some of these guys. Or at least digital copies for Arena. Although he will go on my King Cube as well. But let's not get too sidetracked with that. And then we'll move on to Ilharg the Raise Boar. So obviously from the name, the creature type, that he's a boar god, you can tell he's not like the other gods. Why is he even being included in this discussion? So he is a 6/6 trampler for 5. Already we're looking at some beefcake. And his ability is, when he attacks, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. Return that creature to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. When he dies or is put in exile from the battlefield, you may put him into his owner's library 3rd from the top. So that's where you'll see that he ties in. He ties into the other 4 by having that same ability that indicates he has that kind of godhood that's hard to dissipate. and the fact that he's listed as a boar god. You've got your zombie god, you got your boar god. So he's a god, and you can see that the god mechanic specifically that ties all the gods together is the putting it back in the deck. Now, you may be wondering, wait, what is this? What is this creature that clearly looks like it should be in Princess Mononoke? What is it doing amongst these God Eternals? What exactly is the deal? Well, for those of you who don't really know the entire flavor or story behind what's going on, Nicol Bolas was, in very, very short way of putting it, he enslaved an entire plane of existence to basically create an endless supply of eternal warriors. Now, he had mind-washed the gods, brainwashed, I should say, the gods of this plane of existence and turned them into his own servants. And then when he decided that he had gotten enough out of that plane, he had created a big enough army and he didn't need to create any more, he actually went ahead and destroyed all those gods and reanimated them as zombie god eternal versions. So they are basically the exact same process that was done on all the regular people who had gotten wiped out on Amonkhet was also applied. Well, not regular, like the cream of the crop people were part of this program. So basically, the best mortal inhabitants have been turned into Eternals, and now their gods have also been turned into Eternals, serving Nicol Bolas. Now, Ilharg is nothing to do with any of that, honestly. Ilharg is part of the Grawl clan's religious beliefs, and there is very little information about Ilharg out there. There's a little snippet. This is pretty much the only source of reference about Ilharg, aside from a few mentions on some cards. Really, if you look at it, the first time we actually hear about Ilharg is on Rubble Belt Raiders, and that's from Gatecrash. And that is a 4-mana 3/3 that gets a +1/+1 counter every time that it attacks. Or no, sorry, it gets, whenever it attacks, it puts a +1/+1 counter on each attacking creature you control. I just normally have only ever had one out by itself when I'm playing with it in the King Cube, so I forget that it does in fact affect everybody. Now, the flavor text is what we're keyed into here though. This city will perish, and the Grawl will cheer as the boar god crushes the last bricks into dust. Nikia of the old ways. Now that was it. I mean, this was a number of years ago, and from that point on, we hadn't heard anything about the boar god. There's a snippet of information, as I said, in this. For those of you who don't know what this is the Guildmaster's. This is the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, which is a Dungeons and Dragons source book based on the world of Ravnica. So that's where you get information about Ilharg. Basically, he is the bringer of the end rays of Ravnica, as prophesied by the Druids of the old ways from the Grawl clans. The Druids believe that civilization will never be eradicated by scattered raids and petty skirmishes, because the Grawl are the outcasts of Ravnican society. Instead of feeling comfortable in the giant swaying spires, yeah, earthquake apparently with the camera. The Grawl aren't at home amongst the big spires and endless city. They live in rubble belts and other rundown ruined parts of the city. They live closer to nature, and they want to see nature overtake all of civilization, essentially. So this ties into their belief. They wage a war of trying to reduce Ravnica down to rubble and to remove the veneer of civilization. So these druids specifically think that the Grawl's uncoordinated actions will never really result in the full pulling down of society down to the existence that the Grawl finds ideal. So these druids cling to the idea of a coming apocalypse, the end race, where Ilharg's hooves will trample every brick and stone of Ravnica's soaring skylines to rubble. The world will return to a state of nature in which the lawless code of muscle and savagery will reign once again. With the growing unrest between the guilds of Ravnica, the ascension of Domri Rod as guildmaster, and the start of War of the Spark, it's thought that the time of the end race has come. Well, the boar god has shown up. Now, obviously, he's not really living up to completely leveling Ravnica, but I do like the idea that they've kind of got their prophecy a little bit wrong, where they correlated him showing up in the destruction of Ravnica, not really realizing it would be the invasion of Nicol Bolas and his Eternals laying waste to the city that would end up with most of the destruction that's going on, and Ilharg is just kind of manifesting as these are the end times. And honestly, end rays as an end term, I really like it. It's similar, end of days, they would use that sort of thing for an apocalypse scenario. End rays, it works pretty well. I like it. And the fact that they've tied in Domri to being perhaps a sign that this is the end, if you look at Rhythm of the Wild, right? When you look at the, that's that 1 green, 1 red, 1 colorless enchantment from Ravnica Allegiance that makes it so your creature spells can't be countered, and they also have Raid, or not Raid, Riot, sorry. Some view Domri's unlikely ascent as a sign of Ilharg the Razor's imminent return. Some see the fact that Domri Rod has taken over the Gruul clan and is now leading it as a sign of the end times. That a weak little stripling looking kind of guy could come and lead them, compared to before you had Borborygmos, who's that gigantic hulking cyclops. And before it was Borborygmos, it was actually one of his ancestors that ruled the Gruul clan. So basically, the Gruul have been ruled by the same line for a while now, and then along comes Domri, and he kind of upsets. And when you look at Domri, you don't feel like he's a terribly powerful kind of guy. So obviously, as a planeswalker, he's pretty powerful, but this was seen as, you know, this is one of the portents that showed that we might be at the time of Ilharg. And I mean, it doesn't hurt that Domri is riding a bunch of these boars as well. So it might actually be that they're like, oh, the strength of Domri is what's showing it might be the end times. But I don't know, man. For me, Domri never really fit the flavor for the Gruul properly to me. He doesn't feel like a hardcore, like, muscle and savagery, and he's just like a little like noodle-armed boy, and I never really liked him mixing with the Gruul. But getting back to Ilharg, he is seen as not only like manifesting in things like the boars and things you see in the world, but he's actually, like, if you look at Living Twister, you can see what else he represents on like a spiritual level for the people in the Gruul clan. So Living Twister, 1 green, 2 colorless, 1 green, 2 red, I should say, for a 2/5 elemental creature. You can pay 2 mana, discard a land card. It deals 2 damage to any target. You can pay a green, return a tapped land you control to its owner's hand. So basically, you can pull up all the lands and send them flying in this massive twister of destruction. And the flavor text says, the ancient places of Ravnica awaken, stirred by the hoofbeats of Ilharg. Ah! So I mean, on the face of it, I really like Ilharg's card. I think that he's awesome. I mean, 5 mana for 6/6 trampler. That's going to let you slap at another creature, a la Through the Breach. Or there's the, what is the name? What is the name of that? It's Kalia, there you go. Kalia of the Vast. She basically lets you put creatures into play tapped and attacking, but very specific creature types, like angels, and there's a couple other creature types. But you can't do everything you want with her. But you get to keep the creatures around, whereas with Ilharg, you put any creature out, but it goes back to your hand, so it's very much like it's similar to Through the Breach, but in a creature form. And honestly, 5 mana. Through the Breach is 5 mana. Like, Ilharg is really powerful, honestly. I like the power level of the card a lot, but he definitely stands out like a sore thumb from the other gods, where you look at him and go, well, what? I mean, I see you've got God in the name, and I see that you go to the, like, 3rd from the top in the deck, but what I don't see is how you're connected to these other gods. And for anybody who didn't know, yes, there is a red god from Amonkhet that was in part of the original cycle, but that's Hazoret, and Hazoret didn't end up getting destroyed and zombified. So that may be because we're going to return at some point to Amonkhet and Hazoret will be a part of it, or it may just be a story decision they made that won't actually influence anything going forwards, because when it comes to Magic the Gathering, half the time they do something and it's like, oh, this will matter later on. And the other half the time they'll do something like trapping Sorin in the stone, and then, oh, how'd Sorin get loose? Oh, we're not even going to mention it. We're not even going to mention it. I still don't know how Sorin got loose, and as far as I understand, they don't even tell us in the War of the Spark novel. That's driving me crazy, I have to admit. That kind of stuff annoys me. That stuff eats at you and goes, come on, man. Use what you've already written in your stories. Makes sense. You know how it is. When something doesn't make sense, you stop and you take stock of the situation, because you're like, wait, why doesn't this feel right? And that's the deal with Ilharg. I like Ilharg as a card. I like him as a concept. All of that works. The flavor behind him works. The concept behind him works. But kind of shoving him into the god cycle makes him stand right out. He's the odd god out. And that part doesn't work for me. But overall, I definitely like the card. So let me know what you guys think. Did you feel the same way when you saw the Cycle of Gods? Did you go, wait, what now? Why is there not a red zombie god? Why is this going on? Or did you not even notice? Or did you just not care? Those are also options. Either way, at this point, it is time to roll the golden scroll. The people have my back on Patreon or through channel memberships. Thank you very much for supporting what I do, my friends. I appreciate it. To all of you, I say thanks for being here, and I'm history, baby.